Hello, I'm Lizi Bowen, Associate Director of Digital Communications and Community Engagement at the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center. We're here for another episode of Live from COP28. I'm here today with Eduarda Zoghbi, Development Officer at Rocky Mountain Institute and Board Member at Student Energy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So what do you hope to see come out of this COP? How has it been so far for you?
Yeah, so this is the phase out fossil fuel COP. And I think I'd love to address that first because phasing out fossil fuels will be a very difficult task for all of us. But I think we always have to push for more than what we want and for more than we can achieve. I started my journey with climate activism and in grassroots organizations. And I had a friend that used to tell me, we want 100% renewables. It might not be possible or within reach right now. But if we don't push for it, we're never going to get there because we always have to aim higher because we know how hard these negotiations are. So I'm really hoping that we can finally address the wording of phasing out of fossil fuels in the final agreements at COP. And then the other point that I think gives me hope that I think is equally important is building this momentum around the campaign of tripling renewable energy capacity by 2030. And it's been very impressive how this was a campaign launched at Climate Week. And in a few months, they already had multiple organizations sign up and a lot of governments already committing to it. And I've heard a lot of ministers, climate ambassadors, and climate envoys talking about this target. And I really hope it happens because we still have a massive finance gap for renewable energy technologies, especially in the global south. The countries that are expanding renewable energy the most are the countries that are, developed. So we're hoping that this type of finance comes with also technical assistance, capacity building, and really finding policies that can reduce the cost of renewable energies for, to benefit everyone that needs it. And then the last point I would love to make is that we, every year after COP, we see the percentage of female negotiators we had at negotiating teams at COP. I'm really hoping that we have a higher percentage this year, especially because we've been stuck in the 35% rate range since 2017. So hopefully this year, maybe we'll have more. And if not, once again, it has to be, something that we talk to each other and talk to our countries to show that this number does not represent the reality of our countries. We just need more women at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's always such a pleasure to work with you and see you on the stage here at COP and all these other great discussions around the world, because you really are, one of the leading voices there. And I think it's really great to see. I want to go back a little bit to tripling renewable capacity. I know that was something that happened in your Climate Week, as you said, which was only 2-3 months ago at this point. How is your work contributing to that, to meet those goals?
Yeah, so when we talk about this massive renewable energy need all around the world, we also talk about the importance of the workforce. Who are the people that are going to be on the ground installing the solar panels? Who are going to be the people who will be in the government thinking of the policies? And for that, it's fundamental to train and build capacity for young people. So working with Student Energy for a few years now, and now in a position of being the board member, we talk a lot about the need for bringing young people to these spaces, but also teaching them how to get these jobs. Young people coming out of college, they are interested in energy and they have no idea what they want to do. And it's very, it's often that someone will come to me and ask me like, oh, but what should I be studying? What should I be working with? Because the companies, organizations, nonprofits in general, they don't go to schools, high schools, and college to talk about opportunities in the energy sector. You usually think, oh, I have to be an engineer. I have to be in STEM. Otherwise, I'll never be in the energy sector. So I think that there's a need in raising awareness and disseminating the opportunities there are in the sector. And then there's also a need for the companies and organizations working in our countries, especially in emerging markets, to really engage locals. We can't just bring technologies that exist, in the Netherlands, in the US, in China, and just like deploy them in a way that we're using the workforce externally. It has to come with training. And Student Energy has 7 incredible programs, but 2 of which that I would love to mention. One is a fellowship program teaching young people about the one-on-one of the energy sector. So we really have to understand the energy systems, how they relate to each other, how they can decarbonize. And there's also like a gap in knowledge, right? It's so hard to get access to this type of information and build the networks for you to get your first job out of college. So we also have a careers program that for a lot of our youth in the network, it's a program that helps them get their first internship, helps them train and have a capstone project that is their first ever energy experience. And that helps them, it's a stepping stone for them to find something out there in the business, where we also mentor, support them in our network of more than 80,000 young people in more than 100 countries.
So how are you working, within policy and within different types of technology to really meet these decarbonization goals that we're trying to achieve?
Well, there are just so many solutions that I think we lose track of some of the low-hanging fruits that are quite obvious to us. And, I spoke at a panel this week at COP that for me was a very intimidating panel to participate, mostly because I was very much with only men in the panel with me, but also because I was being asked about how to unlock private finance in emerging markets for renewable energy technologies. And then the night before, I was thinking, what are some concrete ideas I can bring to this panel? Because so many of the panels we participate are like these long monologues of what the challenge is, of what we would like the opportunities to be. So I think most of my work experience has been at international organizations and at multilateral development banks. So when it comes to the low-hanging fruits and how to decarbonize, especially in our countries, in the context of Latin America, one thing that I have been proven very successful is public-private partnerships. We sometimes forget that things as simple as public-private partnerships are still lacking a robust regulatory framework in a lot of countries. And to give you an example, I've seen the former Minister of Energy of Peru talking about how important PPPs were to achieve last mile electrification in Peru to fund transmission lines, because the government not always has the funds to, take the electricity to the whole population. And we know how the energy access gap is one of the biggest challenges to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 7. So I think PPPs are one very practical solution. And the other one are power purchase agreements, PPAs in energy markets. And I did not know what PPAs were until recently, until going to grad school, because they're still not common in Latin America. We're very used in a process of auctions. We don't have vertically integrated energy systems. So for this reason, bringing these new business models that have been working in other places sometimes prove to be quite helpful. So Uruguay is an excellent example as well of using PPAs to also reach 100% renewables. One of the few countries in the world that in a year, on average, they can run 100% renewables. So I think that these are, great examples. And lastly, I think when we talk about South-South cooperation, one thing that I love when I learn from what Africa's doing, especially countries like Kenya, is the pay-as-you-go models. So really helping people pay little by little to have electricity in their homes. It's one of the best ways to reach remote locations and to alleviate poverty. I think those are very simple ways of really getting, merging the idea of energy development towards a just energy transition.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they all intersect in one way or the other. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Live from COP28. To see everything that the Atlantic Council is up to on the ground, please visit us at atlanticcouncil.org.